She is an accomplished healthcare executive, a functional medicine health coach, and a wilderness warrior. Welcome to the stage, Annamarí Dietrichson.
When was the last time you gave your all at work? You were on fire. You rocked that presentation. You were fully present, and you came home with energy to spare. Yep, this stuff is hard. Being a leader is not for the faint of heart. Even before the pandemic, CNN published an article saying why being a CEO should come with a health warning. It's only gotten worse since the pandemic. We are bombarded with headlines such as these. You cannot escape it. It is everywhere. And the industry hit the hardest is the healthcare industry. 53% of managers feel burned out. 75% of healthcare executives state that they know a coworker who has left the industry completely due to burnout. Workplace stress is costing the US economy $300 billion. And it's predicted that in the next 5 years, there will be a 3 million healthcare worker shortage in our nation. This stuff is hard. But let's bring it a little closer to home. Have you ever noticed that positive, confident up-and-comer, so enthusiastic and pinpointed for the next leadership position? Yep. She gets that promotion, and 6 months later, you see her in the cafeteria, and you look over at the table where she put her credentialing badge, and this is what you see. All joking aside, but am I the only one that have seen as leaders increase their sphere of influence and the stress levels rise, they start to get cranky. They start to pick up weight or lose weight. They are just no longer that bubbly, confident personality that they used to be. That once vibrant individual now have bags under their eyes and seem to get gray overnight. This is not by chance. There is an explanation. But before I tell you about that, let me tell you a little bit more about myself. I have always been a purpose-driven, mission-oriented individual. Whether it is working with orphans in Africa, serving in the slums of Thailand doing volunteer medical work, or doing environmental education in the islands of the Philippines. Most recently, I started a nonprofit, Deep and Beyond, working with people with disabilities to help them experience freedom through the outdoors. Now, 10 years ago, this passion for serving people led me to the healthcare industry. And I love my job. It's so much more than a job. It is my calling. I have been a leader for over 20 years. Now I'm a healthcare executive for a very large health system. But I'm also a functional medicine certified health coach, because I know that burnout is nothing to be joking about. It's serious, and if somebody's going to do something about it, might as well be me. So about 9 years ago, in the beginning of my healthcare career, I was that enthusiastic, promising up-and-comer. I worked hard, I got noticed, I got promotion after promotion, and I thought I was invincible. This burnout thing was not going to happen to me. I was not going to be that frazzled individual we looked at earlier. But as the pressures increased and my sphere of influence got bigger and the stress levels rose, I started to lose it. I started to be the one to pick up the weight, to become irritable, to just not be that nice anymore, but I held it together. It's when I got home, when the bottom fell out, and I yelled at my husband. So there I was, trying to excel in my career, stay sane, survive, and be happy. And I looked in the mirror, and this is who I saw staring back at me. I was determined that I was not going to go down that slippery slope from fully charged to burned out. And yet, it happened to me. So if you can identify, I want you to know that you are not alone. Hang with me, and I will show you how I got myself and countless of my clients out of that downward spiral so you too can thrive in your career. The journey as a leader is a tricky one. In the corporate world, we're programmed to just have it all together on the outside. Above the surface, it's calm, we're in control, everything is good. But what's really going on is you're just barely holding it together. You're telling yourself, fake it till you make it. Don't show weakness and suck it up, buttercup. While under the surface, it is chaos. You're frustrated, you're starting to struggle with brain fog, your productivity starts to suffer, and you're barely surviving. And the guilt, the mom guilt, the I'm supposed to be a top performer guilt, it's taken a toll on you. So back when I was living in Hawaii, one of my jobs was being a scuba instructor. And I was taking one of my clients on a discovery dive. This is when somebody goes scuba diving for the first time without a certification. It is a huge responsibility, if I haven't underscored that enough. So there we were, we settled on the bottom, and my mask was real foggy, and I thought to myself, let me just clear it out a little bit, something I've done 100 times before, but this time was different. I cleared my mask, boom, snapped off my face. There I was, 30 feet underwater with a first-time scuba diver in my care, and I could not see a thing. As if it couldn't get any worse, along comes a curious sea turtle and knocks my regulator out of my mouth with his flipper. I couldn't see and I could not breathe. And this is what it's like to be a leader in the healthcare industry under the surface. But what causes burnout in the first place? The World Health Organization finally defined it in 2019 as an occupational phenomenon that occurs because of unmanaged chronic workplace stress. But all this talk about stress is giving cortisol a bad reputation. Look, cortisol is not the enemy here. Let's give a round of applause to our friend cortisol because you cannot live without it. Cortisol gives you that winning edge, that can-do attitude. It literally helps you to wake up in the morning, but it can also save your life when you need to fight or flee because of a very dangerous situation. The problem starts when we don't know how to manage this effectively, and you start to live in this constant zone of high, elevated, chronic cortisol levels. When it doesn't come back down, it will increase your blood pressure. It will increase your blood sugar because you're supposed to run away from the lion, but you don't do that, and it turns into fat. It suppresses your immune system. It completely deregulates your sleep cycle, so you might fall asleep completely exhausted, but wake up 3 hours later with a complete panic attack. It literally shrinks the memory center in your brain and causes memory loss and depression. But probably most interesting to all of us is how your body will prioritize making cortisol when you're stressed at the expense of testosterone, progesterone, and estrogen. And that causes a myriad of problems for both men and women. No wonder So many of us feel like the only way to have some normality back in our lives is to quit our jobs. Now, I know you're like me. You don't want to quit your job. This is a calling for you. It's so close to your heart. You've worked so hard to get to where you are. You thought you had the talent, the qualifications, and the experience to be a roaring success. And yet here you are. Now what? If this is you, you are in the right place, because I am going to show you how you can thrive not only in your career, but in your personal life as well, because your family don't need to be the dumping ground of your stink energy. You're probably right about now wondering what happened to that crazy scuba diving experience. Well, the only way I was able to handle that situation was because I knew how to be the boss of my brain. I said to myself, this is not a crisis. No big deal. We can fix this. It's just my mask off my face. We can fix this. So I kept telling myself, everything is fine. And I did what every trained scuba diver is trained to do. I leaned over to my right side, swept my hand against my body, and there was my spare regulator. Put that in my mouth and took a breath. Started feeling around for my mask, found my mask, put it on my face, cleared it out, and I looked at my scuba diver who was freaking out. Back at the surface, he told me, oh my gosh, I could not believe how calm you stayed under the circumstances. I want to be like you. So you see, it all starts with your thoughts. First, you have a thought. Then you have an emotion that's attached to that thought. Then you take action based on that thought. And then you get or do not get the result you were looking for. So I could have had a very negative thought when that happened to my mask and my regulator. I could have been like, oh my God, we're gonna die. This is the worst day of my life. What am I gonna do? What would that have done? That would have resulted in panic, in crisis, in freak out mode, and I would have bolted to the surface and put my own life and my students' life in danger. But instead, I told myself, this is no big deal. Nothing has gone wrong here. I know how to fix this. Don't you just feel that calm, in control feeling sweep over you when you think a thought like that? And that was how I was able to keep my cool and get us out there safely. Healthy habits is not just something to put to the side. It is a way for you to build resilience, yes, the ability to bounce back, so you can handle more stress. Exercise not only makes you stronger, but it floods your body with real good, positive feeling hormones. Nutrition is equally important. There is so much that we put into our bodies that is actually creating a stress response. Trust me, none of us need more stress in our lives. Rest and resilience. The first thing that comes to mind is sleep. And yes, sleep is your superpower. It is there for you to flush out all those negative toxins, help you renew, help you restore. It regulates your hunger hormones. If you don't sleep enough, you're hungry all the time and eat what you don't need to eat. If you get a good night's sleep, you feel satiated and in control. And that's why a recent study showed that if you add 1 hour of sleep to your night for a year, you could, if you're overweight, lose an average of 20 pounds over a 1 year period. Now, this is not just talking about sleep. This is also talking about taking a break, going on PTO, take a vacation. Do you know that 65% of us don't take our allotted vacation time because we think we have too much work to do? Remember when I told you I was burned out and just about going to lose it? I was so exhausted. I stormed up to my husband one day and I said, honey, I need to take a vacation. He said, oh, honey, don't worry about it. I already packed your bags. Come, let me walk you to the car. That was the best 4 days I have ever spent in a mountain cabin. I came back so rested, enthusiastic. I was nice to my husband again. I had so many creative ideas of how I was going to solve difficult problems at work. And I learned a very valuable lesson. You have to go slow in order to go fast. Intentionality is all about taking control of yourself, taking ownership. You are the only one that you can control. Nobody can control you. It's all just influence. So don't sit around and wait for somebody to start doing it for you. Take action. Knowledge is power. But unless you do something with it, it's useless. Be intentional with your boundaries. Learn when yes is going to get you to your goals and when no is the kind answer. Vigilance. Have you ever wondered why some people flourish while others burn out in the same exact circumstances? I believe it comes down to vigilance. Be specific about your goals. Do not give up on them. Say no to that sneaky victim mentality that'll come creeping up. Don't be swayed by circumstances. If you truly want to succeed, you have to be fierce and focused on the outcome. You know, the number one excuse I hear from my potential clients is that they don't have time to take care of themselves. But I've got some great news for you today. I am going to liberate you. Are you ready? You do not need more time. All you need is more energy. Make energy your most valuable resource. Be tenacious about protecting it, and you will get so much more done from a position of empowered energy. If you take these 6 concepts, you can thrive. But you're probably asking, where do I start? Number 1 is your thoughts. You cannot underestimate the importance of focusing on your mind. Now, a couple months ago, it was my husband's 60th birthday, and we went up to the mountains of Colorado for his birthday. But it was raining cats and dogs. And I was a little worried about 2 of my friends that were coming from Denver all the way to Breckenridge. So I texted, let's just call her Susie, in case you know who she is. So I texted Susie. I said, Susie, how's the drive coming along? Susie texted back, oh my gosh, I'm so over the rain. It's terrible, blah, blah, blah. Oh, I'm going to crash. I probably won't even be there till midnight. Whoa. So I texted Karen. And yes, that's really her name. And I asked Karen, how's the drive coming along? Here's what she responded back. Rain, glorious rain. The same exact circumstance. 2 completely different sets of thoughts. So here's how you manage your mind. Number 1, acknowledge what you are thinking. Do not be like Susie, who just let this train leave the station with no conductor in charge. Be like Karen, who chooses the thoughts specifically and acknowledge that. Notice the feelings that is associated with that thought. How do you think Susie felt? Frustrated, angry, like she was the victim of everything that's happening. Whereas Karen, she had positive thoughts about the situation. Next, what you do is you determine if that emotion is going to help you take an action that is going to take you to your goal or away from your goal. Now, when Susie showed up, man, I just had to bite my lip to not say, you know, there's like a really nice hotel down the street. Maybe you want to come join us tomorrow? But when Karen showed up, she was calm, relaxed, ready for the party. Number 4, if the thought you are having is not getting to your goal, choose a different one. And then start over. It's that simple. Now, I've implemented all these steps, and look at what I would have missed out on if I didn't know how to thrive. 2 incredible stepkids, yes, who are huge, a loving, kind husband, and love in the outdoors with my dog. Boy, am I glad I didn't quit my day job. But now it's your turn. Imagine you're standing at a crossroads. You can keep going the way you've always gone. You can keep doing what you've always done, but you will get what you've always gotten. But you no longer have an excuse. Take a deep breath with me. Aren't you just tired of surviving? Today, you have the opportunity to choose. It's time for you to thrive.